Hey guys, welcome back to Life Up Education TV. Today we have a special guest slash my friends. So we're joined by Thomas and Mitch. Hi, welcome. So in today's video, we wanted to discuss how can we feel like we're not doing something wrong, right? Like how can we fight against our self-doubt? And I specifically wanted to invite my good friend Thomas right there because we've been on many sales meeting before, and I noticed that this is something he can do very well as well. And he can probably say that at macro I'm very good at it as well. So let's talk about that a little bit. So Thomas, let's ask you first. What do you think about this topic? Like how? So let's give you a context. When you're in a sales meeting, how do you know, or how can you be so confident that you're not doing something wrong?
I think you should start thinking like a criminal. Then you know for sure.
Why do you say that?
No, I'm joking. That's such an interesting question, actually.
The confidence thing, right? The confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes to
Like the
confidence. And you got to believe it in your product, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing is absolutely understanding how your product works for you and testing that and trying your product yourself and knowing more about your product. The more you know about your product, the more your product has helped you, the more you're convinced that it will help others.
I see. So on the flip side, can you ask me a question about this from the angle that you believe I'm good at doing it?
Absolutely. So if you think of your product,
yeah,
how has your product helped you and others? Give us concrete examples.
Say one more time.
Give us concrete examples of how your product has helped you and others. What has it delivered? How has it delivered it? And how are you feeling when you're using your stuff?
Am I doing this for what? Like, are you asking me a question, or are we doing the role play response to what you just answered?
No, so what I said was basically really simple. I said, the way you can have confidence in a sales meeting is knowing how your product helps you and understanding what it can do for your client.
Right.
And a lot of people, they try to sell a solution that doesn't necessarily help their client.
Yeah.
Or they don't know exactly how their solution is going to help their client. But instead of doing that, I think one of the first things you got to do is like you got to understand how the product or solution is helping you. You got to practice what you preach. So using your product, using your service, understanding how it helps you, what it has done for you, that makes it so much easier and so much more convincing, and gives you so much more confidence in a sales meeting when you're talking to your client. And then from that, you can, try to figure out your customers' problems and understanding their problems. And when you understand their problems, you relate them to how you solve your own problems similar to theirs with the service or product that you have.
I see. Interesting. So, this is.
So my question to you is then. So my question.
I have something I want to challenge you there then.
Okay.
I slightly I completely agree with everything you said, but in the same token, I also I pull from the different opposite direction where.
Challenge me.
So I'm a big believer of, like, yesterday, actually, I posted this on my Instagram. I said, I focus on reaching 7 billion people who don't know me, than trying to convince 1,000 who know me and are not in a position to like me. So that comes into the topic of negotiation now, right? And this is something I was also talking with another friend of mine about negotiation. And there was this book my friend was reading, talks about negotiation, successful negotiation. And this expert guy for negotiation, he has this chapter where he described like all negotiation should have some sort of like a budget set. So considering your emotional cost, considering your cost, like financial cost, considering your like all the cost that it takes for the people who, the convincer to pay, like where is the boundary, like kind of the topic, right? Like what's the end goal of the discussion? And that was pretty interesting to me because like I have that exact approach to some extent, because I feel like I find myself focusing a lot more on focusing on the abundance, focusing on the fact that no matter how big your brand gets, for example, Coca-Cola, they haven't achieved all the possible customers. Like even as a big brand as Coca-Cola, like they're not reaching enough, right? Like the population is always growing, people are always being born. Like it's almost impossible that you achieve every single possible customers, right? So for me, that mindset kind of helps me to just don't dwell on the lost opportunity versus like let's create new opportunity like constantly, like nonstop, right? So that's like another approach I have. And then which comes back to product and market fit. Like it's just simply that some people are not in a position to want your service, and you just can't dwell on those each rejections. Like focus on practicality, which is just know how the market works and know that like at this very moment the customer don't want your service, but it doesn't mean that like they don't want it forever. And also there's also other customers who need it, so it's just the matter of finding that customer who need it at the point. But it was very interesting that you said that you know, because I also, so my question to you now, it comes like, what's the balance do you see there? Because I definitely also believe that you definitely have to like try to convince for a little bit, right? Like try to flirt with the customers. It's not like you go to them like one time and then if they don't want it, like, you know, fuck you. Like it doesn't work like that. Like what's the balance? What do you think?
Well, I think that there's a, you know, when it comes to convincing, when people hear your pitch, your story, how something worked for you the first time or second time, if then they have like the sales funnel, you know, they have sort of awareness of what you're doing and what you're selling, right? Or but they don't necessarily have any interest. So it is coming back to like
finding their problems.
Exactly, and creating that interest. So you want to get in there and you want to create some interest, and by creating interest, it's like
solving their problems. Right?
I mean, he's just like my other half right now. He's just like filling in my sentences.
I'm in an advertising company. So yeah.
That's why, like yesterday, I also posted from Foreign Connect channel where I said, in order for you to acquire a customer, you first need to be education company. You first need to be media company. And I think this is so true, because instead of trying to convince people who are not interested in, like, why don't you educate customers so that they're on your team already? So you don't have to start from the convincing phase, but you start from the basically, you know, bringing the solution phase instead of, right? So I agree with you. So let's talk a little bit about the context of like personal life here, right? Like instead of the business world. I specifically wanted to bring you in because you're so good at just leading the client meeting, like, right? Like I was impressed. So, but now let's shift this to a confidence. Like, how do you know if you're doing something right in life, right? Like how do you know, or how can you feel like you're not doing something wrong, like in other words? And I personally wanted to bring this in because I have also been a victim of this, like, you know, struggle before myself, right? Like I think it comes a little bit from the environment of like how I was raised, where I felt like I was constantly like forced to think that I was doing something wrong. Maybe it has to do with the culture a little bit too, like growing up in Japan. But I had to fight against it a lot, right? So now I have some like kind of a conclusion for this for me. And my thing is, I have ability, because I come from business background, I can apply like business theory into life theory, right? And I think in life it works the same way. Like it's a humility, and also it's understanding, well, logically thinking. Like, you know, so we are talking about self-doubt. My conclusion, I said I have some sort of conclusion right now, right? By now. My thing is, I don't know if I'm doing something right. What I know is I'm doing something cool to me. And I accept, logically, I accept that my idea cannot be accepted by everyone. I might fail commercially. I might fail, like, you know, fail. I'm repeating myself, like, but you know, so for me, my conclusion is like, I don't know if I'm doing something right, but I know that I'm doing something out of good intention. I'm just trying my best to be the best version of who I am, which included being helpful for others. And like, as soon as you stop playing the ego game of like, I'm the best one, I want to be the better one, I want to be the smarter one, I want to beat you by becoming more successful than you. But if you switch your focus to, I want to help others, I want to be happy by doing whatever, and I'm being the best version of myself, right? If you switch the focus, then it becomes less about you and more about the other people, and it becomes it actually creates the ultimate I guess confidence in that as well. So you're doing it for you, you're not doing it for others.
I agree.
Yeah. And that is to say that you might fail. Like if you have a commercial intention to whatever you're doing, like some people might not find it as a cool thing to do, right? Then you're not gonna succeed in business wise, but that's okay. Like, what are you really doing it for? If you're doing it to just have fun, then that's okay too. So that's kind of like how I came to the conclusion.
I agree. I think that's really, I would say that that's a really, really good insight.
It's also like a balance, right? Like to not just be like, listen to me because I know everything, but more like, you know, making that person feel safe doing, you know, giving their problem to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then I think that's why I said humility in the beginning with, like, I'm a big believer of like the world doesn't owe you anything, right? Like that's how I default my thinking into. So, you know, it's never about you. Like the world doesn't give a shit about your problem. Like they have their own problems. Your problems, it's like not the problem for anyone else but you. But given
I agree to that, like, 1,000,000%.
Yeah, so you know, like you can't shove whatever you have, your problem, your opinion, whatever, and expect others to like react in the exact same way you romance that they do. Like it doesn't work like that. This is why business thinking, this is why logical thinking comes in. Like you can't, each time that happens, you can't be a bitch of that situation. You just have to open up and understand that the world is never about you. Your problem is no one cares about your problem. You're the one who cares about it, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side is, which means that even if you fail, it's no one's business. It's only your business. As long as you can get yourself up and become happy again, like that's all that matters. Like no one talks about your gossip all the time. You know what I mean? Like they're too busy for your gossips. Like
yeah.
So
exactly.
That's another narration I think that can encourage people. So that being said, I think we've been speaking for a while now. So I'm going to close it for today. And thank you very much for both of you for coming on.